let you go, there's no way. I'm already still burning. So hold me close, now baby. I do what I'm told, still learning to take my chances, to take my time, to keep on dancing, to walk that line, yeah. You got me shifting the paradigm, no longer wishing, you're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride, look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, yeah, we could roll the dice. Act like you surprised, but you already know. Oh yeah, got lucky overnight. Jackpot when I got the invite. Let me wrap my arms around you, cause I can't go home without you. And my heart just vibe with you, babe. Wanna go sky high with you, babe. Gotta bring you close to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. Cooler than cold, I'm all in. So load up the dice, so heavy. The way that you roll, I'm falling. So I never fall, I'm ready to take my chances, to take my time, to keep on dancing, to walk that line, yeah. You got me shifting the paradigm, no longer wishing, you're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride, look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, yeah, we could roll the dice, yeah. Act like you surprised, but you already know. You're my lucky strike, and I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. I can't let you go, there's no way. I'm already still burning. So hold me close, now baby. I do what I'm told, still learning to take my chances, to take my time, to keep on dancing, to walk that line, yeah. You got me shifting the paradigm, no longer wishing, you're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride, look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, yeah, we could roll the dice. Act like you surprised, but you already know. Oh yeah, got lucky overnight. Jackpot when I got the invite. Let me wrap my arms around you, cause I can't go home without you. And my heart just vibe with you, babe. Wanna go sky high with you, babe. Gotta bring you close to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. Cooler than cold, I'm all in. So load up the dice, so heavy. The way that you roll, I'm falling. So I never fall, I'm ready to take my chances, to take my time, to keep on dancing, to walk that line, yeah. You got me shifting the paradigm, no longer wishing, you're my lucky strike. Yeah. Love the way you ride, look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, yeah, we could roll the dice, yeah. Act like you surprised, but you already.
All right, folks. Well, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another week of the Rec Poker podcast. This is the chats edition, but we also have a forums edition every week just talking strategy. I'm your host for both, Blusterini in the home game and at Rec Poker Jim on the hellscape we call Twitter. My real name in the in the world outside of those two things is Jim Reed, and I have the best freaking job in the world, talking poker with my friends here on the Rec Poker podcast every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. And you can join us every week for free and win a prize just for showing up. Now, we're going to talk to, I can't believe it, we got them both, guys. Gang, we got them both in here. We're talking to Dara Carney and Barry Carter in just a moment. But first, I have to mention we're brought to you by Running Aces, the official sponsor of the Rec Poker podcast. You can find out more about them at runaces.com because most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, so we really depend on support from our sponsors and also from our premium members who take part in our training material and study opportunities for only 22 bucks a month. And I want to thank a few new premium members that signed up recently: Sean Hamstra, Janice Haptonstall, and Jeremy Herb. So thank you to three of you for your 22 bucks a month. It makes a big difference to what we do here, and I know you're going to find some valuable tips, tricks, and resources to make your life even better than it already is. I know it's hard to imagine, folks. Now, you can always get involved here for free. Everything starts at a free membership at rec.poker. All it takes is an email address and a smile to sign up, although we do insist on both. And if 22 bucks a month sounds like too much for you, try getting your first month for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. And if $5 feels like a lot, let me tell you, folks, all you have to do is support a local food bank with a donation of any amount. That's right, just kick in $1 or more to a food bank in your area and send us the receipt, and we'll make sure you get credited for a free month of Rec Poker Premium. So I hope you take us up on that. Now, they let me host the show on Mondays, but I'm only one man. It takes a group, a gang, a village, a crew to make all the magic happen around here. We call this group of wizards the Wrecking Crew. Of course we do, because we're all big dorks. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the Wrecking Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can just listen up because you can meet a few of them right here tonight on the show. Take it away, Chris Jones.
Well, I'm Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the PokerStars home game, and I help run our monthly strategy segment called The Deep Dive.
My name is Joe Coolis, also known as Dork number 16 within the Wrecking Crew. I also go by at Joe Cool PhD, cool with a K on Twitter, or Elvita11 in the home games. My purpose in this level of dorkitude is to present different ways that the brain processes information and hopefully helping everybody understand how they can use that information on the poker felt and improve their game.
My name is John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek MN everywhere, and I help organize our home games.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I'm PetVet or PetVet33 on the social platforms and Fergie56 in the home game. And I host a hand history review group once a month on the second Wednesday of the month. This month was really fun. We studied how to play against live players with inelastic responses to bet sizing. So that should be up on the website soon.
And I'm Rob Washington. You can find me as Radman50 just about everywhere. And on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, me and a bunch of the other premium members get together for a book study where we study the latest books. And in the past, we've done a couple of Dara and Barry's books as well. So join us.
That's right. Just a little taster's choice of the smorgasbord of Wrecking Crew options available over here. And if you're tuning in to listen to this interview with Barry and Dara, you're in for a treat because we're giving away one hell of a prize at the end of the show today. So stick around. You're going to get a chance to support a local food bank and win some fantastic prizes just for being part of the show here on YouTube live at 7:30 Eastern every Monday night. All right, that's enough shilling. Let's get these two in the room here. Now, Barry, Dara, we don't have two guests on the show. I'm going to let you guys kind of figure out the rhythm and cadence of who's answering what. But first, I just want to say thanks for coming back on the Rec Poker podcast. It's a treat.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for saying Barry and Dara instead of Dara and Barry. First time anyone's ever done that.
I'll have you know that I actually anytime we're dealing with partners, I intentionally swap them from time to time. Sometimes it's one way in the subject of the email and then the other way in the body of the email. I think you're both just lovely gentlemen and you deserve all the respect in the world. So yeah, there that is. I can see all the smiles on the show here so far. Well, why don't we start with that? Barry, I'll ask a question for you first, and then we can kind of get into more of the show. And of course, we are taking questions if you're in the YouTube chat. Feel free to type any questions for Dara and Barry, or Barry, Dara, and we'll make sure that we ask them. And of course, we're also going to be giving away a prize at the end, so stick around in the YouTube chat for that. And if you want to support what we're doing here, a great way to do so is with a super chat or a super sticky or a super comment. And a portion of all the donations that we receive through YouTube do get shared with a local food bank as well. But so, Barry, you live in this very particular realm of the poker world. This is like ghost writing. Like you're quite an accomplished player. You know poker strategy very well, but you've really made a career out of taking on the brunt of the writing with folks like Dara. What's that like from your perspective within the poker world? Because as you say, it's always Dara and Barry, but what about Barry? What about just Barry, period? No
What
ampersand at
about
all.
what about Barry? Indeed, yeah. No, I think my talent is we pick a subject and we make sure that I'm not particularly good at it. And then I can only improve at said subject. And when I've improved at a certain level of said subject, maybe I can communicate it to the target audience who are also struggling with the subject. So my real talent is just not skyrocketing in terms of success like a lot of other Dara students have.
Yeah,
And
that's
therein was a joke, but there's actually definitely an element of truth to that. I'm sure Dara would agree.
yeah, and I guess I'll ask you, Dara, what does Barry even bring to the table? You know, why are you even working with this clown?
Well, apart from tea, what did he bring to the table? I mean, it was Barry's idea originally, so actually, like he kind of got me in rather than the other way around, and it worked very well the first time. The way I generally describe it to people is he does all the really boring stuff that I don't want to do, like upload it to Amazon and deal with most of the customer queries and deal with the boring stuff of how to lay the book out and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, but I guess as Barry said, like his real contribution, which I wasn't necessarily aware of at the time, essentially like the placeholder for the target audience. He is the recreational player who doesn't understand these topics that we start writing about. So in the same way that they say if you can explain something to a 5-year-old, then you really know it. If you can explain something in poker terms to Barry, then you're probably communicating it fairly well.
Yeah, let me we on the website that we're going to try and plug later on. I have a quote from Dara, which is my favorite quote of all time. My greatest achievement has been taking a not very bright middle-aged man and turning him into a high-level thinker in poker.
I think my favorite quote from the website is actually along the bottom. David Lappin, why didn't they ask me for a quote?
Yeah,
That was no. Yeah,
yeah,
you
that was
guys.
me. I'm glad somebody noticed that. That was me.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you
also
guys have
like
always. No, please, please.
yeah, sorry. I also like the fact that we described him as a recreational player, which I think that was.
I
I mean,
did
we
like.
were originally going to go with washed up content creator, but yeah, recreational player was actually kind.
Yeah, I was gonna say too mean, too mean. And
Yeah,
you know David. I mean I refer to him as the greatest villain of the poker world just because of his, the odor issue and his terrible personality. But he's got some chops and he does have a decent sense of humor. So I'm glad you were able to write on that.
yeah. I mean, to illustrate how different it is working from Barry and working with Barry and David, I got two very different pieces of advice. When I looked at my computer about 20 minutes ago, Barry was like, "Here's the Zoom link. Maybe show up 5 minutes early." And David was like, "Whatever you do, show up late because you need to big time these people."
I believe that. That does not
Sounds
surprise me
about right.
one
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, that does not surprise me one bit. I love it. Well, I do want to talk about the new platform, and you guys are really moving in a cool direction. I guess I will just say one more time, if you're in the YouTube chat, get some questions in. Chris is going to be monitoring the chat, and Barry and Dara, I don't want to, pump up your heads a little too bit, but you're one of the few guests where we got at least one pre-question. Someone was excited enough that you were coming on the show. They were like, "Oh man, we gotta." And it's not even about working with David Lappin and the extent of what you have to go through to get that to happen. But that was very impressive. Why don't we start right in with it? So you guys have cornered the market on poker books. You two are, I mean, I'm not sure if this is actually true, but you appear to be like the most prolific poker authors of our generation. You've covered so many different categories, different types of poker problems. You're moving to this new platform. It's sort of like well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Can you describe a little bit sort of what the reason was for making this transition and what you're most interested in, most excited about, the not using the written word for once in the way that you share your poker wisdom.
Yeah, well, I think we have made sort of ad hoc videos now and then. I mean, actually, the very first piece of content I made on satellites was a video rather than a book. And but it's always been very ad hoc. It's sort of like this topic, yeah, let's put out a video on that, and we put it up on our YouTube. Plus, then we did some more detailed stuff. We did a satellite masterclass for learning about poker. We did mystery one on mystery bounties, etc., etc. But I think really what it grew out of was like my coaching over the last few years has evolved. When I started coaching, most of the people approaching me were what I would classify as wannabe pros, guys who were like at a decent level and wanted to take the leap up to pro, and they felt that they need coaching for that. And I thought, well, that'll always be the type of person I coach. It'll always be those type of people who, basically they want to get from where they are to roughly where I am, in terms of being professional. But over time, that has actually changed quite a bit. And on one side, actually, some very high level players have come to me because of my perceived ability to work very well with solvers and explain the output, and focus on what's important. So there are some guys who are way more successful as players than me who come to me for coaching. But then at the other end of the scale, there are what I call smart recreationals, people who they're attracted by the strategy of the game and they want to be good, but they never want to be professional. They don't, that's not their aim. They're often very successful in some other area of life. Poker is strictly just their hobby, but they take their hobby seriously and they want to be good at it. So over time, more and more of the coaching was being done to those people. And initially I sort of like had just try and figure out what's the best approach with everybody. And people are individuals, so often it's different. But over time, I started to realize that there was just I was sort of evolving towards, for want of a better word, giving the same 20 hours over and over again. I would start with GTO and why it works the way that it does, and then I'd move on to exploits, and then I'd finish with ICM. And within each of those same sections, I was doing kind of the same stuff. Talking about flop textures in the GTO, why we bet big on certain boards, we bet small on other boards, types of hands that get check raised, all this sort of stuff, which is just like everybody needs to learn at the start. And it kind of got to the stage where I was like, am I just going to be giving these 20 hours to 10, 20 different people every year? And essentially repeating it. So I said initially, I said to Barry, like, can I send you a pile of this stuff and you just edit it out and we'll slap it as a video. Thankfully, Barry didn't agree to that idea. He was like, no, we have to do it properly if we're going to do it. So I'll act as a recreational player. So the course that we put out was just sort of that 20 hours of coaching that the vast majority of my recreational students have got at some point. And obviously it's quite honed at this stage because I've done it over and over again. So, I had a very clear idea of what had to go into it and all that stuff. So we initially did exactly what we'd done with all our other courses. We just slapped it up on Gumroad and told people they could buy it there if they wanted to, and, didn't do any particular promotion. But around the same time, I was running into Dave Kingston at Irish Poker Tour events, and he's done an incredible job with the Irish Poker Tour website. Like, the Irish Poker Tour is a small regional tour in Ireland, but the website is phenomenal. Like, you can go to the website, you can see all the events that are coming up. When the events are running, you can click on the tournaments that are running. You can see everybody's seat, everybody's chip stack in running. It's a phenomenal website. And it's pretty much Dave that's done it all. So Dave was sort of ribbing me, saying like, you guys are like selling these courses out of the back of your car. There's no real professionalism there. You're just flinging them out, and people want to buy them, they buy them. You could do much better if you had a sort of a centralized site and a clearer idea of what you were trying to do and what you were trying to achieve and what your appeal is. So I said it to Barry. Barry was initially like, that sounds expensive. No, we don't want to do that.
Man
And
after my own heart, Barry. Yeah.
and I was going away to Barcelona, so I said, okay, just have a meeting with Dave. And Dave worked his magic, because Barry went from taking the meeting very reluctantly to, wow, this guy's the best thing ever. Why haven't we done this before? And he was very enthusiastic. So Barry and David have done all the work putting the site together and how it looks, and the reaction's been really good. But the idea is basically to have a central place for all of the courses that we're putting out. We are going to be doing more courses in the future. We haven't given up completely on writing books, but there are certain topics we just feel are better done as a course, but as a video course. But there will be other topics that we will decide to put out in book form. That's still kind of very much a priority. You can also get the books there. And another crucial idea with the site was, I didn't want it just to be for people who want to spend money. There is free content there, and we'll continually put up free content, more and more free content. So even if people just want to read, some free articles and watch some free videos, they can go onto the site and they'll get a lot of value out of it. If people want to buy specific courses, that's great as well. If they want to buy the books, they'll get them cheaper there than anywhere else. So it's just kind of a central hub for basically all the content we're putting out.
That's fantastic. And if folks want to check it out, you go to simplifypoker.com. And if you want to dip a toe into some of those free offerings, it's simplifypoker.com/free. And we'll make sure that link is in the show notes as well. So Dara, is it fair to say, it's oversimplifying a bit, but this is sort of the course that you're describing, that 20 hours, that's sort of the stuff that every student needs to learn. And then there's other stuff that, different people have different leaks. And so you work with them to find some of that less low-hanging fruit. But this is something that almost every poker player of a certain level is going to have to learn these lessons at some point to improve. This is just like stuff that's consistently being missed by a lot of, intermediate level poker players. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's certainly a fair framing. Another thing which I forgot to say was that, like, when I'm it's always been my philosophy as a coach to try and teach students to actually be self-coaching. So essentially, while I do teach them, in a specific situation, say 40 big blinds deep, button versus big blind, what are the types of boards where we check raise lot? What are the types of boards where we have leads? What are the types of, from the big blind, what are the boards where there's overbets, etc., and explain the reasons why the solver does what it does. What I'm really trying to do is teach people how to use this technology themselves optimally and get as much as they can from it. So the vast majority of my students, when they go through, 5, 10, 20 hours, whatever it is with me, they essentially disappear off then and they become self-coaching, and they study the way that most professionals study. Which is, using the solvers optimally and as quickly as possible. Maybe they find a group of friends to talk hands with as well. That's also very important. Sometimes they come back with specific topics, but then there are other students who really don't want to go down the road of working with the solvers themselves, so they come back constantly for coaching. So it differs, but I'm not trying to teach you. First of all, it would be impossible to teach you the totality of poker. None of us will ever learn that in our lifetime. So really what I'm doing is I'm taking a high impact, 40 big blinds, button versus big blind, which is the basis of most of the course. That's not chosen at random. 40 big blinds is deep enough to be strategically interesting, yet shallow enough to be important. Because, as tournament players, we all start with 100 big blinds. That's nice, but we don't stay with 100 big blinds for very long. And tournaments are won at lost 40 big blinds and less. Similarly, big blind versus button is the most common spot in poker. Once you understand how to study that spot, and you understand how to look at solver output and interpret it and internalize all of the lessons that you can take from it, you can go off and study all the other spots on your own. You don't need me to hold your hand and go, well, what's different if it's the cutoff, or what's different if it's a low jack, etc., etc. Once you've essentially learned how to study, you should be able to do most of that stuff yourself.
That's fantastic. So I know you guys have both agreed to come on the show live. You're staying up late. If you're listening and you've been living under a rock for the last 20 years, yeah, these guys are actually from across the pond, and it's very late over there right now. So very generous of you to be here live. Chris Jones, why don't you take some of the questions that our fans are entering into the YouTube chat? And if you want to find out more about Barry and Dara in their personal lives and what they enjoy about the game, and we've done a couple interviews with them over the years, and you can find more of that kind of information on an earlier episode of the podcast. We're going to dive right into some of the kind of strategy stuff and some of the cool stuff about this new platform that they're working on. Chris, take it away.
Yeah, Dara, Barry, either one of you jump in with some of these. We have a ton of questions coming in, but I actually want to start with the first question we got pre-show from Mike. He was wondering, he had a question about bounties, and really wanted to have an understanding of like how should he approach, or his thinking change when we're thinking about, maybe a standard live bounty where everyone's just got like a single chip in front of themselves that's sort of one amount that you can win, versus a PKO, a progressive knockout, versus the mystery bounty where we might not even know the value of the bounty. Like he was sort of wondering, how much should that change the way he approaches the game and his style of play?
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll take this one. Yeah. It's a very good question. And even though there are three types there, standard bounties that you see a lot live, more so than online, the PKOs, which you kind of only see online. I mean, there's a few of them live, but it's mostly an online thing. And mystery bounties. Essentially, two of those three things are almost the same thing. Mystery bounties are standard knockouts in disguise, because the important thing in a mystery bounty is what's the average. How much will I win on average if I knock somebody out at this stage of the tournament? It doesn't matter what the biggest bounty is or what the smallest bounty is. You're being entered into a raffle, and the value of your raffle ticket is whatever the value of the average prize is. So in that sense, they're the same. In a KO tournament, everybody obviously has the same amount on them, and in a mystery bounty, everybody you knock out has the same expectation. It doesn't matter who you knock out, you have whatever the average value is. When you're dealing with that sort of bounty, the easiest way to do it is just to convert the bounty to a chip value. So let's say the bounty is worth the bounty is worth half of say it's a standard live bounty where half the buy-in goes to the bounty. So you get that if you knock somebody out, and the other half goes into the normal prize pool. Well, then the bounty is always worth half a starting stack. So all you have to do is compute what a starting stack is. If somebody moves all in, add those chips to the pot, assuming you cover them, because that represents the amount of equity that you gain. So it's the same for mystery bounties. It's a little bit more complicated because you have to work out what the average of the mystery bounty is first, and then convert that, divide that by starting stacks. Divide that by the buy-in and then get the starting stack. So let's say the mystery bounty comes in late in the tournament. At that stage, it was 100 to buy into the tournament, but now the mystery bounties are worth on average 500. Then it's 5 starting stacks. So you do exactly the same math. Add those 5 starting stacks to the pot when you cover the other player. If at the start of the hand they're not yet all in, add it to their stack and ask how you would play against their stack if they had those extra chips and you had those extra chips as well, obviously, so that you still cover them. And that's kind of the easiest way to think about those ones. PKOs are more complicated because you only get half the bounty, the immediate bounty when you knock the person out, and the other half goes on your head. So you have to quantify the value of the amount that stays in the tournament that goes on your head. So that's a much more complicated formula. To be honest, there's no real quick way to do that. We talk about it at length in our book on PKOs, but essentially what you do is again, it's in relation to starting stacks and starting bounties, but you use a table to convert it to a percentage. It's essentially the opposite of risk premium. if you're familiar with the concept of risk premium in ICM, we call it a bounty discount. It's let's say the bounty is worth 6% roughly in equity, and the pot odds you need are 33%. Well, with the bounty factor, it's 33 minus 6 now, so it's only 27% you need. But yeah, that's a much more complicated. But as a very general rule, in the standard knockouts and the PKOs, the bounty is very significant at the start, and you should be going after bounties. But by the time you get deep into the tournament, second last table, final table, makes little or no difference. Even in the PKOs where the bounties can get quite big, but relative to the stacks, they'll be much smaller.
Great.
One thing I'd quickly add to that, because otherwise it's just going to be Dara answering all the questions because I'm a T-boy, is one thing that's universal across all the bounty formats is hands that play well multi-way go up in value because you are inevitably going to be fighting multiple opponents for the same bounty. And we found that the hands that play the best multi-way in spots like against other wide ranges are suited Broadway hands. So King Queen suited, Jack Queen suited, King 10 suited, those sort of hands. The hands that sort where there's a chance they're ahead already, they make strong pairs if they do make a pair, and they can make monster powerhouse flushes, straight flushes, straights, if they're called by better hands. So as a general kind of heuristic, if you prioritize those sort of hands, maybe deprioritize the small pair sort of hands that are going to get outdrawn quite easily. That's a pretty decent starting point.
Yeah.
And Barry, you're actually wrong, because I got a question from YouTube that's I would say more directed.
Oh, my mum's watching. This is fantastic.
Hey Barry, both of our moms are watching that because my mom doesn't miss a week. There you go.
So Jeremy asks, you've written books and made videos, so and maybe both of you can answer this, but how, and you've sort of talked about some things sort of fit better in different formats, and some sort of content maybe is sort of more more made for video and maybe more made for books. But how do you think students absorb different content sort of differently, and what kind of things do you think people learn best from sort of a audio visual medium like a video versus a book?
I mean, the trite answer that everybody gives is that everyone has their own unique learning style, and I think probably whatever they're most enthusiastic about is probably going to be the best. However, I have gone on a bit of a deep dive in the last year on what the most effective ways to learn are, and one of them, which I'm a really big fan of, is this concept called I forgot the name of it, which is ironic because I haven't learned it.
We talked about this.
Active recall. Basically, when you are trying to recall something, you strengthen the power of remembering that thing. So if you were to watch one of our videos, for example, most people would assume that the thing to do would be to take notes as you're watching them. An actual better strategy would be to not take any notes at all. And then after you've watched the video, write down what the takeaways that you've had, and perhaps write down some questions that you have off the back of it. Because this forces you to confront what you've learned and where your own blind spots are, and then afterwards you can then revisit the video and fill in all the gaps. And it's much better than just writing down points A, B, C, and D, because you'll look at them in the moment and think that you've absorbed them, but then 2 or 3 days later won't have. So yeah, active recall. It's ironic that I actually forgot the name of it. But that is how and this is how doctors learn, apparently. They're just constantly recalling on flashcards. So I would be an advocate of that.
All right, I got one more from YouTube is from Adafeo. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Adafeo writes, most of the small to mid-stake tournaments I play in Florida start around 100 big blinds, but they quickly shift because they're short levels to, very, very short stack play. And he says, I feel like I don't have the ability to make moves. Do you have any tips on building a chip stack in faster tournament structures?
Dara's the guy for that one, so
Yeah. I actually get asked. This is one of the questions I get asked very frequently. One of my students actually, who's relatively new to the game, asked me this yesterday, and it does come up time and time again. It's a very good question because we all get frustrated when we play these ridiculously fast structured tournaments, and before we know it, we have 8 big blinds and we're in shove or fold mode. Um, the answer is that you can't really force it. Like sometimes people think, oh, we should take all sorts of mad spots now because we want to have a stack. But I think that's confusing what we want with the best strategy. The boring technical answer is that in a very slow structure, slow good structure, we can pass a lot of close marginal spots for a lot of chips, providing we think we have a skill edge, in favor of waiting around for clearer spots, where we have bigger edges. You just can't do that in fast tournaments. If a spot's a good spot, you have to take it. That's the bottom line. If you think it's even marginally profitable and it's for all of your chips, you have to take it, because if you sit around waiting for a better spot, you'll be gobbled up by the blinds in no time. So that's just the main thing. Don't force it. Like don't take bad spots, but be prepared to take all the really close spots and to take all the big spots. Don't be afraid to put all your chips in if you think it's a good spot. And just sort of generally push the action, push the edges more, but don't overdo that.
And I want to just shout out, we've got some cool new names in the YouTube chat today. So welcome to BWF. I see Kate Ibbetson's in there. So Stu Carriage also has his mom in the house, which is very nice. Welcome, Kate. Nice to see you again. Adafio, Midwest 1811, Jeremy Herb, got some cool new folks. Stick around and have some fun. We're going to give away probably one of the best prizes we've ever given away on the podcast by the end of it here. So definitely stick around for that. And we're going to take a question from Joe Coolis here. We'll have time for a few more from the YouTube chat, so get those questions in there for these two awesome guys as well before we wrap this up. Joseph, what is on your mind?
Well, I'm jealous that my mom doesn't give a damn about my podcasting to come on to listen, but maybe someday I'll be big enough that she'll come.
We can't all be winners. We can't all be winners, Joe. We're all doing our best here.
So I've actually been excited for Barry to come on to talk because he's one of the few of that trio that I haven't talked to yet, and I'm very interested in terms of the writing process. I do a lot of my own writing in terms of science writing, which comes down to some very technical questions and things like that. And because of the university I'm with, there's oftentimes some of the projects that I'm with, people know more than I do about something. And I've never been more angry at some people when they have come back and criticized writing that I've done because of the nature of saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about here and so on. And I mean, I don't want to say I've actively thought about harming them, but, it has mind. So how do you work that? Given particularly that my perception is that Dara is a tiny bit better than you in terms, or at least a little bit more knowledgeable in that area, to be a writer with somebody who could essentially come and just say, no, we're not going to do that. Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's absolutely right. I guess I mean I actually think there's a very big gulf between myself and Dara, so that makes it easier. If I was probably a slightly better player, maybe I would argue with him a little bit more. The reality is, I like to think that I come at this more in the way that an investigative journalist would a book, and that I'm quite happy to come into this completely green, completely unknowledgeable about the particular niche topic that we're talking about. So I don't mind being completely clueless about the topic at hand. What I do is I will essentially interview Dara on whatever the subject is. He'll show me any material that he's produced previously. And then I try and just reproduce what he said to me back to him in his own words. So I'll take it away, draft it pretty much in his voice, and I'm fully expecting there to be massive gaping holes in what I produced, complete misunderstandings of certain things. And he will then, start throwing things at me and so on. But I actually don't mind the pain of that process. I don't mind feeling a little embarrassed about it. I don't particularly feel embarrassed about it at this point. And it sticks more for me when we do that, because whilst I am not a professional poker player, and I'd say most of Dara's private students are probably superior players to me, there are aspects of the game I do feel like an expert in, more the ICM-esque stuff, the niche stuff that we have covered in the books. And that is because of this rigorous process of me misinterpreting what he said the first time round, being corrected, and eventually getting it right. So yeah, I don't come into this as a poker player. I think I come into this more just as a curious, perhaps journalistic mind, I guess would be the way I approach it.
Well, I guess a follow-up to that is that, when somebody becomes pretty technically knowledgeable about a topic, the difficulty is often not necessarily the technical knowledge, but essentially bringing it down to the language level of the player or the individual who's coming in. And, when you look at reading levels, for instance, of the average person, it's really sixth grade. I don't know what that accounts for in terms of the European system, but really kind of a 12-year-old's reading level in terms of school. And that I think is the key to poker instruction. Is it's not who's got the biggest solvers and who's putting out the most content. It's really, well, how can you simplify those things down into something that somebody can use? I mean, I know this sounds like I'm asking Barry a lot of questions, but he looked bored for a while in the beginning, so I wanted to make sure that he was involved. But how much do you, as the player who doesn't know as much, modify what Dara might be saying in terms of how to approach something so that it's understandable?
Massively, yeah. We had a big revelation when we released our book GTO Poker Simplified. One of the things that constantly happened was people would come back to us with feedback. There was actually an issue with the first print run of the book, so people really didn't understand the GTO hand grids that we produced in the black and white format. It was a bit of a nightmare for us at the time, but because of that, we communicated a lot with all these people that were emailing us, and a lot of them were very well-known players. There was six or seven players who maybe 10 years ago were very famous in the world of poker. And we realized that they were all buying this book that was supposedly for recreational players. So we realized that there was kind of a big gap between the modern solver era and where most poker players are. So we've always been very mindful of that. And what I try to do when I'm replicating what Dara teaches me is I try to use the language that I've been hearing in the feedback that we have been receiving. It's like an old copywriting trick of using people's concerns and feedback and criticisms in the actual language that we use. So that's something I'm very mindful of, and I try my best to make our language fit what the audience is telling us.
I have one more quick question for Dara so that he doesn't trash me on Twitter or something for not including him in the conversation. But
that's very like him.
I know it's embarrassing sometimes. So you're a guy that knows a lot about a topic, right? And coaching can be very difficult at times when, as you say, I mean, I used to talk about when I was teaching or when I was doing feedback with patients, wanting to push a play button on tape number 56 for whatever question that they came up with answering. But even further than that, you're an individual who, when you decide to go running, runs ultra marathons. When you decide to talk about nutrition, you trash the American produce markets and say that we should all fly over to Ireland to get better produce. How do you manage that desire to push everybody into like the perfection that you want, or where you see everybody optimally performing and where they're willing to settle in terms of either their poker play or mindset or the other things that you work with them on?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because I definitely do struggle with people who are just sort of like, for want of a better term, half-assing it. But I kind of have to develop empathy for them and say, well, that's just the way they want to do it at this one area of their life. But I definitely have better results with people who sort of like come in with the same level of ridiculous seriousness that I take everything I do and really want to learn. And it's no shock that the recreational players that I've coached that have gone let's say have had the best results are the people who were successful in some other area. So they were people who had already sort of been through the thing of they had something that they wanted to get good at. They got very good at it. They did that with a sort of a single-minded purpose, and now they're willing to do something similar with poker, even though it's their hobby and they don't have as much time. But if they're guided correctly, they can get there. Whereas, the guy who just wants a little bit of the latest theory, I definitely struggle with those people. And I often send them off to another coach, say that I think this might be a better fit for you. Um, a lot of the students when I started working with solvers, they were like, we don't want to even look at solvers. Like, that's for nerds. We're not nerds. That's for you guys. But I persisted. I'd say, okay, well, I'm not showing the solver. It's just on the screen so we can talk about the hands, so you can see the grid and I can show you what hand we're talking about. But then over time, they sort of like really got into it. Because a lot of people have this sort of just mental thing of like, no, solvers, I'm not able to do that. That's not my thing. But now, most of my students who've been with me for any reasonable amount of time are very good at looking at GTO Wizard themselves and running their own spots. And the only time I ever hear from them now is like, can you explain this GTO Wizard output to me? Because I don't understand why this hand is being used as a bluff, or why we're folding this hand, or why we're using this size, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely like that's the big thing about coaching that you realize as well. Like, there are different coaches that work for different people. There are some people I'm absolutely not the right coach for, and there are some people that I'm maybe the best coach for, because we just sort of click on where we're coming from, how we see the world, how we think about improving, what our priorities are, what our values are, all that sort of stuff. And I think the reason why, coming back to what Barry brings to the thing, is that Barry is kind of able to filter it out to a wider audience, let's say. So it's not just people like me. Barry essentially is the recreational who wants to have it explained to them. And if I had written these books on my own, they would have been very different. The first book, when we wrote it, I just gave Barry all the content I produced, the webinar on satellites, all the stuff I'd written, and I just expected him to come back with a book, and then we would put that out. It didn't work like that at all. There were areas which he just didn't understand, and then it's actually very it's very useful when Barry doesn't understand something, because if we put it out in the format that I would have put it out in, it probably means that half the audience wouldn't understand it either. It's easier for him to sort of recognize the level it needs to be pitched at. And similarly, sometimes it goes the other way too. Like, I'll start explaining something, and he'll go, "Okay, there's no need to explain that. Everybody knows that. You're oversimplifying it now." So yeah, Barry's just a very good placeholder for sort of the type of person who typically reads our books or consumes our videos. It's now that we started making more and more videos, if you watch the videos, Barry basically plays the role of the student. Barry's the one asking the questions. And one of the best pieces of feedback we got on the new course was from a guy who said that he really, really enjoyed the course. He went into it thinking that he wouldn't enjoy it too much because he wouldn't be able to ask me any questions. He'd just be watching a video but that Barry actually asked all the questions that he wanted answers to anyway.
I will say, when Dara and I started recording the most recent course, we both said, right, I'll pretend not to know or everything we're going to talk about, but for 20 hours, but for 20 hours, I was going, what, really? We did what? I genuinely, it felt like there was so much that we missed out in the written format, and the video format really lended itself to a deeper type of analysis. With certain kinds of stuff. I actually learned a lot from this course, even though at the time I didn't think I needed to.
Well, I really think that the confluence of the two, you working together, makes a product that is hard to find. So just keep up the good work, because it really does bring it to something that's quite useful across a lot of different ranges. So
thank you.
Yeah. And Rob Washington would know a little bit about something like that. He's been hosting our book study here for several years, and I know several of your work have come across our membership there. And if you're watching along at home and you'd like to get more involved, we've got recordings of all those sessions. Rob does slides breaking down chapter by chapter. Even if you can imagine, Barry and Dara, distilling even further your amazing works of genius down to the recreational poker player level. So yeah, it's been a pleasure being a part of a few of those. Rob, did you have something for our guests here?
Yeah, this discussion is absolutely fantastic. I love talking with Dara and Barry. But there's one question that has just been driving me crazy, and that is, Dara, who is your tailor? Everybody in the world wears hoodies, and they're just very, very standard in how they're dressed. And but you come out and you have a statement that you are making every time you show up at a table. I just want to know, is this a big secret, or is there a specific person that you can give credit to for this wonderful wardrobe that you wear when you play poker?
I'd like to take credit for it, but I guess I have to give credit to two different people. The first one is, and this people always laugh when I say this name because they assume I'm trolling, but I'm not. It this is genuinely the genesis of it. It was Andy Black. Andy and myself started talking about 2 years ago about our different approaches to poker, which at the time we classified as GTO versus white magic. And then at the end of the initial conversation, which Andy, I'd say it's fair to went into thinking that GTO is nonsense. Andy kind of came out of thinking, actually, first of all, there's not as much difference between our approaches as we thought. And secondly, I would actually like to learn about this GTO stuff. So he asked me if I would help him, basically work with him on that stuff. And then he said he would give me something in return at the end. So worked with Andy for a few months. He got very up to speed very quickly because he's a very smart man. And then at the end of the 3 months, I said, okay, so what about the other side of the equation? And he said, well, here's what you need to do. You need to start wearing really colorful shirts at the table. And I was I was like, what is that it? Like, why? And he was like, well, it'll just completely change people's perception of you. They have a very fixed idea of you currently, and just experiment with it and see how people react to you if you start wearing these really colorful shirts. So I came home, told my wife, okay, we need a bunch of colorful shirts. And it's fair to say she really ran with it now. Like these things literally show up at my house. Two new ones of these every week. She absolutely loves the shirts. She's the one who chooses them all. Um, yeah, every time I go and look at her ordering them on her computer, her screen is just a wash of like incredibly bizarre patterns. And she's like, "Well, that's terrible. That's terrible. That one is really good. We're getting that one." Yeah. So, Andy and Mrs. Doak, they're the real brains the wardrobe.
Yeah, Dara, back up. Let's get it in frame here. I want everyone to see. That's right. Actually, it was a trick. I just wanted everyone to know that I don't see a single RecPoker patch on that shirt, Dara, you bastard. That's it.
Can we assume then that depending on which shirt you're wearing, your wife might be angry with you at some level and make predictions based upon that?
That's a very reasonable assumption, and I, I wear whatever I find at the end of my bed every morning when I go out to play poker. I have zero input, and the only time I have any input is if I'm going on a trip and she chooses the 6 or 7 shirts that are going on the trip, and then I get to decide the order that I'm going to wear them in. And sometimes I even pass on that. I just put them up on Twitter and ask people like this one or that one, which do you prefer? It's fair to say there are some of the shirts I think are absolutely hideous and I would never want to wear again. But she's a very formidable woman. If she puts it at the bottom of the bed, I'm wearing it. I'm not going to have an argument with her. I'm not going to even suggest that I don't think it's a great shirt. It's getting worn. That's the end.
Just take your medicine, right? Just take the punishment, deal with it,
Yeah.
and then she'll be happy with you when you come home.
So, Dara, it sounds like you must have had kind of a curmudgeonly persona at the table for Andy to say like we got to like change how people view you. Is that fair to say? Like, was it just like mum poker or
No, I think it was more to do with maybe just too much of an old man coffee image or
okay.
and one thing we talked about when we were seriously talking about like sources of frustration. I would say to Andy, like, I'm watching you at the table and people are just handing you their stacks. They're doing the most crazy stuff against you and making the most crazy calls. And then, I make a tiny value bet on the river and they fold. So what gives? Am I giving away physical information, or do I need to change my strategy? He was like, no. It's all about how they perceive you. If you're wearing a blazer and you're an older gentleman and you're known to have written some serious technical books, they're going to perceive you in one way. But if you show up wearing a mad shirt, um, people will perceive you differently. And I mean, he's absolutely right on that stuff. Like, uh, people ask me why I've been building stacks in the last 18 months early on in tournaments, which I used to do in the past, but just not all that often. And some of it is some technical work I've done on deeper stack, but some of it is definitely like I do get more of those gifts now that people like Andy and Phil Helmut and these other that type of players get quite a lot of. So
I
yeah.
think Dara should start wearing shirts with GTO hand grids on the front, and then he can get all his opponents banned for using RTA at the table.
Oh, I like that. Levels. Did did Arthur give you that idea, Barry?
No, that's actually my idea. I actually genuinely sell a T-shirt online with a hand grid on, saying this is my opening range, and I managed to sell like 2 a year. I've made
That's
about 80
fantastic.
pence of profit. So
Um,
that was the plug
yeah.
there.
It's been done. The lady who designed Floptimal wears a shirt with the GTO range on her
Yeah.
thing. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fun. I love that.
Brilliant.
Chris Jones, you unmuted. Do we have some more folks in the YouTube chat that
Yeah, we've
are
got
itching to get their questions
another
in?
question from Lorianne in the chat. And this is probably for Dara here. With so many options out there, and you mentioned maybe some people being a really good fit for you and some maybe people being less of a good fit for you in terms of coaching. But Lorianne asks, with so many great options out there, what do you think is the most important thing to consider, or multiple things to consider, for someone who's on the fence about hiring a poker coach?
Yeah, first of all, I think it needs to be somebody that you click with on a personal level. Some of the best players in the world do coaching, but if they coach some of my students will get little or nothing out of them, because they would, neither side would understand the other side. So that I think that's one thing. And another thing is, there is so much free content out there at the moment, and that's great. And I always encourage people to use it as much as possible. And we put up a fair amount of free content as well. The difficulty nowadays is not the paucity of content, which was the case when I started. It's just there's too much of it, and a lot of it is not great. Let's not dwell on that, but a lot of it is pretty poor. So you can actually end up watching bad content, which makes you worse. So the thing about coaching is it's sort of a guided. I see it more as a tour guide through the whole area of poker study, poker content, getting faster. Like, I'm constantly recommending videos for my students to watch, or books for them to read, or Twitch streamers to watch, that sort of stuff. And if they give me, if they ask me about somebody and I have a low opinion of them, I won't hold that back either. But yeah, I think it's more, just think of it as somebody who can it's a shortcut. It cuts out having to watch 10 bad videos to find the one good one. Because, again, like, not all my students are exactly the same. Like, some of them are quite different. So that, I'll see one video and immediately I'll think, oh, that would be very good for one of my students, and I'll recommend it to him. And then I'll see another video which would be good for a different student. It's an area that they're struggling in. So I think that's kind of the role of the coach. So you're sort of a tour guide, rather than necessarily an instructor. Like, you're not going to teach somebody everything about poker. What you're trying to do is help them navigate through a world where you have many options.
A couple more questions, then we'll let these two fantastic fellows roll on out of here. Barry, what's one thing that makes your job feel like a grind or an obligation or like a job? Like, if they called it play, they wouldn't pay us to do it. So it's work. But like, what's one part of it that actually kind of like bugs you, or you wish you didn't have to do?
Yeah, I know the answer to this one. For whatever reason, I hate having to revisit old content after we've created it. So, for example, when we launch this new website, I have to update all the old books so that the old books sent people towards this website if they wanted to learn more, and that was a pain. That I had to change all the page numbers, the page order, and stuff like that. I just really hate it. I have this very impatient kind of I want to move on to the next thing kind of mentality. Dara's the same. Whenever we release a book, like I guarantee you, every single release date, there is a Twitter DM chat between the two of us where we're like, right, no more books, but this is a good idea. Yeah, we could do this, and this. Right, let's meet up tomorrow and do this. We're always on to the next book the day we launch another book. We're both very future focused in that regard. So I just hate. And then if someone if someone would say, for example, contacts us and says there's a spelling mistake on page 17 of PKO Poker Strategy, that is, such a pain for me. Yeah, so I do not dwell on the past is the polite way of saying it.
So yeah, you're out there. The person that definitely did in real time write into Barry about the typo on page 17. That one stuck
Oh,
with
there's
him.
there's too many of those guys to single anyone out. That's
Dar, what about you? What's one part of this part of your role in the poker world that feels annoying or frustrating, or you just wish you didn't have to do it?
Yeah, well, I guess the site was kind of born out of the main one that I've had recently, which is just
Mm.
giving the same class over and over again. Like going, okay, this is the 17th time now I've explained to people why we overbet on boards like 8-5-2 and why we lead on boards like 6-5-4. And nothing has changed. And I have to try and sound as enthusiastic and earnest as ever. But it's the 17th time I'm doing this. And yeah, repetition, I guess, is the main thing. Like it's very similar to Barry. Like I always want to go on to new stuff. Even if it's stuff I understand very well, teaching it is a challenge, teaching it to one person, but then teaching it to the 17th person is not a challenge anymore because you are just replicating it. I remember that, as I said, like the very first content I produced that I remember actually came out of a chat I had with Carlos Welsh in the Andrew Broca's house in Vegas, where I gave Carlos a 30-minute breakdown on how to play satellites, all the major concepts. Carlos came up with the term chance of caching and actually wrote up a couple of pages for me. I went off to bed. He went off to play a satellite. When I woke up, he'd written this up, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is great. Maybe I could make a video out of this." So I did a webinar, and then loads of people after the webinar were like, "Oh crap, I missed your webinar. Could you do another one?" So I did another one, and then another one, and then another one. By the time we were on to number 5, I was already like, I'm completely over this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to record this one, and I'm going to put it out as a video. And if anybody says, "Oh crap, I missed your webinar," at least they'll be able to buy the video. So that was the very first content to do. So yeah, it's all yeah. I just hate repeating the same thing over and over again, which is kind of bizarre when you think about the fact that I used to be an ultra runner, where you basically like run 200 laps of the same ridiculously boring loop in 24 hours. But as a runner, I was able to do that because you're dealing with all of your body is changing over the 24 hours. At least you go from like ridiculously fresh and optimistic to a zombie shuffling forward through the last few hours and everything in between. But yeah, just teaching the same thing over and over again to very similar people. Like I don't know how school teachers do it, to be honest. Guys who have like fixed curricula. I guess they have there's enough variety in the students. Maybe just in the poker world, the students are just a bit too samey. But yeah, repetition, I guess.
I'm
Yeah,
so
that makes
glad he
sense.
didn't. I'm so glad he didn't say explaining poker to an Englishman as his introduction. I was waiting for it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, folks, you heard it here first. Simplifypoker.com, and if you want to get some of their free stuff, simplifypoker.com/free. That information, those links will be in the show notes, as also will be the Twitter handles for these fine gentlemen. And of course, I will say, as a Wrecking Crew member, you can find out more about Dara by going to rec.poker/doke. And we hope that you do. Dara's been a big friend of the show here for a long time and a contributor to our deep dive seminar. And it's just great to be able to connect with you two again. I am already looking forward to April getting back across the pond over to the Irish Poker Open again. I had such a fun time hanging out with both of you and even that Lapin character. So hopefully we get a chance to do that again. We're going to play Stake, Study, Stack, and then we're going to close the action with our speed round. When we have two guests, we're going to split you guys up. And Chris, you said you're going to play Stake Study Stack with Dara, I believe. So I'll let you take that away, boss.
All right, Dara. So this is our game we call Stake Study Stack. I'm going to give you three names. You're going to pick
Yeah.
one that you want to stake in a poker tournament or cash game, one that you'd like to study with, and then one that you would take great pleasure in just taking all their chips and stacking them at the table. And I got some crowd input on this. So the three names I have for you are David Lappin, Andy Black, and Barney Boatman.
Oh, those are three good names. Okay, so we'll start with study. I think that's probably the easiest. Just by a process of elimination, because I've tried studying with David and he is impossible. He just argues about everything. And our study sort of went from us arguing about everything and me just having to end the argument by saying, David, yeah, you're right. So when the solvers arrive, David giving his argument and then me sharing my screen and say, David, you're wrong, and you can take it up with the computer. And then David completely lost interest in studying with me at that point because David, no good for study. Barney plays the sort of curmudgeon, like I just do things my own way, GTO, etc., etc. GTO is bollocks, so I don't think he and I would be a good fit on that. And I know from hanging around with Andy in Vegas and from studying with him and talking poker, he's actually a delight. He somehow has got to the age that he is, and he's still as enthusiastic about learning and as enthusiastic about poker as ever. And he's great fun to hang out with. He always has a fresh perspective as well because he doesn't come at things from the same angle that I do. So yeah, Andy definitely to study. It's the stake or stack. It's more. I guess it's always funny to stack your friends. So let's say I would want to stack David and stake Barney.
Thank you, Dara. Well, that's fantastic. So we're going to get on to our last segment of the show here. This is closing the action, our speed round with Barry Carter. Before we do, I just want to thank our guests again and tell our YouTube chatters we're going to do a raffle shortly after this segment once our guests are gone. And we give away some great prizes here on the show from time to time. But this is one of my favorites ever. We're going to give away a full suite of poker books from these two, the exhaustive collection. You'll get an e-copy of all the different poker books that these two fantastic minds have produced for the poker world. And all you have to do to enter this contest, this raffle, is just type the words food bank right now into the YouTube chat. And I see we've got several people watching live. If you all of you just type the words food bank into the YouTube chat, you'll be entered into our raffle. And the reason that we do this is because it's just kind of a hard time in the world right now. A lot of people are having a hard time putting food on the table for themselves, for their families, feeding their kids, loved ones. And just like we try and reduce the stigma from being a recreational player around here, we also try and reduce the stigma of just asking for help when you need some help. And lots of people need help right now. And a great way to make the world a better place with very little in your own backyard is to just take a few dollars out of your wallet, a few hours of volunteer time out of your week, or a few non-perishable food items from your pantry, and just donate them to a local food bank. And if you pull out your smartphone right now and Google food banks near me, you'll find at least one organization that could really benefit from some of your attention and compassion. So I just encourage everyone to help out your neighbor, help out. You might be surprised who in your own community needs a little help right now. And so please do support your local food bank. All right, Barry Carter, I've been waiting all day to put you in the blender, buddy. This is going back to our sandwich eating hoser days together.
Here we go. Yep.
Here we go. Yeah, that's right. So this is close the action. So we're looking for lightning speed. I know at this hour, with your mental capacity, we're already in trouble, but I hope you got a big old cup of tea ready, my friend.
Well, my wife says if I'm nothing else, I'm quick.
Fantastic.
How you want it. Yeah.
Yes. All right. All right. So just quick, speedy answers. The first thing that pops to your mind is mostly about poker. Good luck. Oh, and we're still struggling with the soundboard, but We do have the TikToks. Add a level of drama here. All right. Barry Carter, what is your favorite poker hand?
Pocket nines.
Is poker a gamble or a skill game?
Skill. Just.
What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
Oh, when you've just come back from the bathroom in a live poker tournament and someone says to you, "Oh, you just had aces." Doesn't go.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
Yes.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
What's one thing you're afraid of?
Oh, everything. Losing my dogs.
Oh, that's a good one. Should vacations be lazy or busy?
Very busy. Definitely busy.
What's your favorite brick and mortar poker venue?
Oh, the Crown Casino in Melbourne. I think it's Dara's favorite as well.
How do you grapple with the concept of your own inevitable mortality?
I just keep knocking books out as much as possible in the hope that I have some sort of legacy.
Yellow light coming up. Slow down or speed up?
Yellow light. Oh, well, I just recently had a fine for that orange light in this country, so definitely speed up. Speed up and get a fine.
Doesn't have to be your favorite, but what's one excellent musical artist?
Oh, Tame Impala.
All right. Are you pro chop or no chop?
Oh, you mean pro chop? Definitely pro chop. ICM book. Get it
now. Is an open face sandwich a sandwich?
Got a word sandwich in it.
Yeah. Okay. What about an ice cream sandwich? Is an ice cream sandwich a sandwich?
Yes.
He's very consistent, guys.
Yep.
Who is your poker nemesis?
Well, just the guy, just my friend Anthony from the home game. That's not a very good answer.
No, that counts. He lives in your mind rent free. I understand that. And what's one thing you can't live without?
Oh, dogs again. Yeah.
All right, back to the dogs. Okay, so you're going to get dinged a little for the double dog answer. That brings you down to 714 points, but still very impressive. Very impressive, even with the double dog.
But okay, yeah, fair enough.
No.
That sounds high.
We've got a proprietal system of accounting that takes place in the background here. It's totally not just me making it up at all. I promise, for sure. Okay. It's not. No, it's not. It's not that. It's not that.
I will take being the highest ranked Brit in this game.
Well, hey, this is episode like 630 or something. Like, we're going to go back through the annals of the show, and we might find some higher ranked Brits. You're going to have to come back on and see if you can improve your score, friend.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but fair enough.
All right. Well, Barry and Dara, this was exactly as much of a pleasure as I knew it would be. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. I'm so excited to see you guys branching out. Like, I mean this genuinely. You do such a great job making the recreational poker world a better place to be. And so from the bottom of my heart and for everyone here on the Wrecking Crew, thank you very much for all you do for the poker world and for being such great friends to RecPoker as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Well, I hope we get to see you again sometime real soon. Now, we are going to give away a fantastic prize here. And then we're going to actually, let's start by John Somsky. Why don't you tell us about some recent home game wins and give folks just a couple more minutes to type the words food bank into the YouTube chat. And then we'll give away maybe our best prize ever to one of our YouTube viewers here live in real time. John, take it away.
Well, we have on October 9th, we played our Mixed Game Championship Series. This is a game that we play once every month, and then at the end of the year, you earn points, and whoever has the most points wins the Player of the Year Series. And on October 9th, we played 6+ Hold'em. This is also known as short deck, real big in the high stakes games in Macau. And Poker Geek MN John Somsky got his first mixed game victory of the year.
All right.
Apple of my eye, Harold Barry still has over a 20-point lead in this race.
Wow. Awesome.
Then LBD 11, Joe Kulis got his second nightly victory for the
What?
year.
Rigged.
JS Edom, Jeff S. got his 11th nightly victory for the year. K Poker Wannabe, Ron Payton got his 5th nightly victory for the year. Walton JB, Joe Walton got his first nightly victory for the
Nice.
year.
Congrats, Joe.
Apple O My Eye, Harold Berry got his second nightly victory for the year. Bitcoin 70K got his or her first international victory. Stewie 13, Stuart Carriage got his third international victory, and that was his 49th lifetime victory.
Oh man!
Then on October 13th, Stewie 13, Stuart Carriage got his second LPP victory to earn his 50th victory, making him the third member of the Lifetime Achievement Award Club.
Wow. Way to go, Stu. Congratulations. Damn.
So I mean, obviously the Lifetime Achievement Award is the big news here, but if you want, you can still contact info@rec.poker for your free month at Learn Pro Poker. Continue with your accolades there, Chris.
Oh, I literally thought once Evil Roy took that, I thought no one was ever he was gonna be the sole member of that forever and ever. But
yeah,
not at
all. And then Kim
not
snuck in. Yeah. Kim snuck in like, not even that long ago, and Kim Kilroy, who's one of our coaches here, and you're familiar with her on the panel, brought a few of her friends into Rec Poker when she joined. The Poker Friends Forever, Stewie and Elizabeth, and some other poker friends as well. But they're crushers. This Poker Friend Forever group, all they do is win, win, win. They travel around the world playing. I've had a chance to hang out with them and stay with them and play with them. I've learned a lot from these guys. So congratulations. And that's so cool that we've got 3 folks now that have won 50 lifetime Rec Poker home games. That is hard to do. If you're listening in and you're not sure what's going on, we run the toughest play money home game series in town. Period. It's free to play, but the prizes are real and the competition is fierce. So feel free to get involved as part of our free membership here. Rob?
And speaking of which, I have the results of the ROI competition for September.
Awesome. And
the top of the list is somebody by the name of Fergie56.
Oh boy.
With
no surprise.
172% ROI in tournaments played on the home game in September. Holy
there you go. Way to go.
That's with traveling too.
Yeah. And she got a run good ring in there somewhere too. That was a big month for you, Kim.
She's on a tear.
What a crusher. Now, I'll tell you, folks, go to rec.poker/coaching. You can learn from Kim and some of our other amazing Wrecking Crew panelists and share their love of poker with you. We've got some crushers on the team here. Kim, congratulations. That's phenomenal.
Okay, number 2, Walton JB.
And that's
our man, Joe Walton.
Beauty. Nice performance.
Number 3, I don't know how this happened. It must be a mistake, but it's Rabman50.
Uh-oh, there he
came
is.
in 3rd in September in ROI.
Huh. And it's funny because Rabman50 is tabulating the results, though.
I wasn't going to say anything about that, but
I don't know. John Somsky can mention his name, can he?
fair enough. You're right. We have allowed that.
All right. Then we have Larson's opening.
George
came in 4th we had 32%. Hilly 19341. It's our guy Rich Deacons. Came in 5th. Bone Crusher 14.
Oh, Marcel.
I believe that's Marcel
Dusick. Yeah, congrats.
21%, and then Graphics 16.
Roger,
one of our favorite Rogers.
Yes.
Came in 5th of the premium members at 18%.
Congratulations. And huge shout out to Roger Schutte, who is an integral part of what we do here. Well, I mentioned at the top that, we're largely led by volunteers here at Rec Poker. Roger handles a lot of the post-production for every episode of the podcast that you've heard for the last several years. He does it out of the goodness of his heart. He helps us out a lot. and I love seeing it when our active members climb the ranks of the winners circle here. We got a question in the YouTube chat, Rob. What is this ROI competition? Basically, every month we measure up all the premium members' stats in our home game club for the course of the month, and we just kind of rank them just for fun to let everyone know who's really killing it in the home game club as a premium member that month. The games are free to play. It's a free, you don't have to be a premium member to play in them, but this is just a nice little feature that we add for our premium members. And whoever gets the highest ROI in any month gets to win the prize of choosing from a set of upcoming podcast guests and coming on the show to join the panel to interview that group. So, Rob, who was the #1 ROI winner in September?
That would be Walton JB, Joe Walton.
All right, Joe, get time to practice being on the panel here, buddy. Send that email, please. You can send that email to jim@rec.poker because I wrangle the guests in advance and I can let you know who's coming up. And Stewie, because you won on Sunday, that is the Learn Pro Poker sponsored home game. And so every time we play on Sunday, somebody wins a free month of membership at Learn Pro Poker. And you can send your email, Stewie, to info@rec.poker so we can connect you with that fantastic prize. All right, so this is extremely cool. Some great highlights in there. That's fantastic. And Stewie, way to go, man. Congratulations on that Lifetime Achievement Award. Those are not easy to get. So full points there. All right. Let's give away this fantastic prize. This is such a super cool prize. Chris, you've got the Daiso Cam.
I do, and I have to say, I am excited because this is the first time we've ever had to use the 20-sided dice.
Oh, you are a nerd. I love it.
Go.
Yeah.
Like
Joe's getting excited.
I didn't even know why I got this thing. It seemed like this useless die is collecting dust. We've used the 12-sided before.
It's here.
Need a moment.
It's here. It's finally here.
Yeah.
Joe Coolis and I are old D&D nerds, so the idea that we get to roll a 20-sided die is pretty fun. I was going to say it's pretty cool, but it's not. It's just pretty fun.
No.
So let's make sure we get this here. So Chris, I'll run down the list I
Yeah.
see in the YouTube chat. You let me know. We've got Evil Roy, Karen, Brian, Eric, Jeremy, Daniel, Mike. We're gonna skip second Karen, Midwest, Stewie, K-Poker Wannabe, and Joseph Walton. Are those the ones that you see as well?
Then there's
And then Joe Rafter
and Adafeo.
Adafeo. I think that's it. Okay.
So how many is that? That's 14?
Yeah, no, I got it. Let's try that again. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, because there was 2 Karens in there.
All right, we got 13. We're still using the 20-sider. Anything above a 13, we're re-rolling.
And if it's a 14, yeah, John?
I was just going to say, this is the chatter that elevates us to the best poker podcast ever.
Oh, yeah, you love.
Counting
this is
on
the part
numbers
people
and-
tune in for. Well,
Oh, yeah.
they're going to win a good prize, though. This is a
podcasting
really
here.
good prize. All right,
This is a really good prize.
All right,
If it's
here
a
we go.
14, I'll donate $20 to a local food bank.
awesome.
And
Here we go.
15 to 20, any of those numbers, I'll donate 5.
Oh, all right,
Here we
nice,
go.
nice. Here we go. Let's see. Who's it going to be?
It's a 9.
9. All right. So let's start again. Let's just do this again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Stewie Carriage, I think, if my math is correct.
Wow, you make the Hall of Fame and win the prize.
He just can't stop winning. This is a triple threat for Stewie. He won the Lifetime Achievement Award. He won the Sunday Night LPP prize and an e-copy of every book that Barry and Dara have collaborated on. Well, he's the real winner. Stewie's the real winner tonight. That's fantastic.
Did we forget to put into the liner notes 1 prize per contestant or something?
Yeah, that's right. Cannot be combined with other offers. All right. Well, congratulations. And yeah, please email. In fact, you can just email me for that one, Jim. I'm going to be emailing with Barry and Dara a little later on. So I'll make sure that they send you. I'm going to make a note here to send Stu is free books. That's amazing. Congratulations on all your success. And thank you to everyone who was participating in the YouTube chat today. Some cool, fun names. We're going to be talking with Veronica Brill next week on Monday at 7:30 Eastern. So I hope you can come and join us for that as well. And we do this every week, folks. We give a fun prize out every week, and we just have a great time doing it. So let me see. What else? Is there anything else we want to mention before we roll on out of here? I have to thank again the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino for all their support over the years. We couldn't do what we do without them. Thank you to Dara Carney, Wrecking Crew member, a longtime friend of the show. Barry Cardew, who I'm really getting to know better over the last year, and I enjoy him quite a bit. He's actually a really fun guy, great sense of humor as well. Everyone in the YouTube chat, let me see. John, Kim, Rob, Joe, and Chris. We couldn't do it without you guys. Thanks for all your support on the Wrecking Crew. And the listeners at home. I've got the best freaking job in the world. This is so much fun. We'll see you next week on the RecPoker Podcast. Good night, everybody.